Hey, it's Mo Egger. If you love college basketball as much as I do, then you will love long necks. The 4K TV setup is awesome, and by the way, the sound is always on for the big games. And if you tried the wings at Long Necks, you owe it to yourself. Plus, no place in Northern Kentucky has a better beer selection. There's 3 locations, Wilder, Hebron, and Richwood, each one of them very easy to get to, each one of them with a great outdoor setup for when the weather gets warmer. Long Neck Sports Grill. Stay late, come often. We do this on Wednesdays. Chat with one of the experts from OrthoCincy. They've got specialists and locations across the tri-state, and they also offer walk-in orthopedic urgent care weekdays $99 and Saturdays from 9 to 1. You can learn more at OrthoCincy.com. That's OrthoCincy.com. Joining us this week is Dr. Trevor Wilkes from OrthoCincy. I want to talk about 3 different athletes in 3 different sports. Let's begin by chatting about Joseph Ossai. So he is recovering from off-season surgery for a torn labrum. Now, it feels like he's going to be good to go for the start of training camp, but he's going to miss most of the off-season program. Let's start with this. What are the usual signs of a labrum injury?
Yeah, so good question, Mo. So first of all, it's a really common injury. Sports like football, baseball, swimming, weightlifting, loads on your shoulder. So it's really common. There's actually a really interesting study that looked at guys at the NFL Combine and found that almost 15% of these college kids coming through there had signs and symptoms of labral tears in their shoulder. But the big one is feeling like your shoulder's going to come out of socket, so instability. That's a big one, especially in contact athletes. In overhead athletes, a lot of times it's a deep pain, sometimes a feeling of clicking and catching, but they can be tough, and that's a good reason. Oftentimes you got to work with your sports medicine team to diagnose it.
How does labrum surgery compare to other procedures performed on shoulders?
Yeah, so I mean, it's different. So it's anatomically, it's different. You know, the labrum is a little sort of thick rim of cartilage that goes around the socket. So if you think about your shoulder like a golf ball and a golf tee, kind of goes around the rim of the golf tee, helps hold the ball in socket. Surgery is basically to repair that little rim of tissue and tighten the ligaments. Generally, it's arthroscopic, so it's minimally invasive. It's a little bit easier recovery than rotator cuffs. I hate to kind of overgeneralize, but I think in general, it's a little bit easier. For guys like Joseph, the recovery rates are really pretty good, Mo. You know, if you look at studies, anywhere from 90 to 95% of guys come back and do really well. So pretty positive.
So there's a lot of optimism that he's going to be able to return by the start of training camp. But what are there concerns about his ability to play pain-free and operate at 100% during the season? And is this the sort of thing where there's a chance of a re-injury?
Yeah, you're totally right. And I think a lot of Bengals fans saw that with their first draft pick, right? Mm-hmm. Putting in a backup. But yeah, there is. I mean, in general, recovery comes somewhere in the 5 to 6 month range. So he had surgery early February, so you can kind of move forward from there. And the risks of him having instability or kind of coming back out of place, most people put that around like 10 to 12%. So that's a reasonable risk when you're talking about, such, essentially, highly paid assets like Mr. Ossai is. So
I want to ask about Fernando Cruz. This is a guy who's had a long and I'll say winding road to the big leagues. He finally gets there. He's with the Reds. Unfortunately, he is on the 15-day injured list. He started to feel discomfort in his shoulder, his rotator cuff, back on April the 23rd. He took a couple of days off. He started to feel better. He pitched a game, and then the pain flared up again a few days later. The expectation here, they've put him on the injured list. They don't think this is going to be something long-term, but walk me through how this type of shoulder strain is detected and then eventually evaluated.
Yeah, so first of all, I couldn't believe I read that for Fernando, again, he's had a long and winding career, but this is his first time on the disabled list. That's remarkable for a pitcher. I mean, that's some durability right there. No matter what you'd say about his career, it's very durable. Assessing those things, first of all, the fact that he didn't have like a pop or a single traumatic moment, that's a really positive deal. The sports medicine team with the Reds would be looking at his strength, his movement, and just kind of the general gravity of his symptoms. Most likely he, especially with an experienced pitcher like him, he's experiencing a little bit of rotator cuff tendonitis. I heard he was having a little kind of cracking in his shoulder, which often is some bursitis. But yeah, I hope for the best for him. 2 to 3 weeks and the return rates are pretty good as long as he's not getting more serious rotator cuff damage. And then they would assess that with an MRI.
You mentioned, he's a guy, he's pitched in different levels of professional baseball for 16 years. And so there is some just natural wear and tear. How much of that is a factor in, kind of determining what his outlook is going to be for the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, you're totally right. There's actually some really interesting research on pitchers who were in the major leagues for a long time. There's a guy, Dr. Meister down, he's the team doc with the Rangers, and he's looked at some sequential studies of MRIs on pitchers through their career, and they absolutely pick up wear and tear like you're talking about, Mo. We see thinning and damage to the rotator cuff. We see a higher incidence of labral tears as pitchers get older. All this wear and tear does add up, and certainly probably is not great for prognosis. But the other side of that is a lot of those guys that make it that far, they just have really good pitching mechanics. They know how to take care of their shoulder. And there's a reason they're so durable. They stick with it. But your point is totally fair. 16 years up and down through professional baseball, you're going to have some damage to your shoulder for sure.
Dr. Trevor Wilkes from OrthoCincy is with us. I want to ask you about the current NBA MVP, Joel Embiid, who I guess is going to play tonight, but he didn't play in Philadelphia's Game 1 win over the Boston Celtics as he's been dealing with a sprained LCL. Part of the treatment involved a PRP injection. What's a PRP injection?
Yeah, great question. Something I actually love talking about, Mo. So PRP, which is an acronym, stands for Platelet-Rich-Plasma, is kind of a subset of a field of medicine, regenerative medicine, where we're starting to try to harness, your body's ability to heal itself. It comes out of a lot of really cool research about what platelets can do as like a signaling mechanism to help things heal. So think of them as little like chemical messengers that go in there and try to jumpstart the healing process. The way it actually kind of practically works, and we do these in our clinic, a lot of clinics in town do, but the cool thing, it's a point of care. So that means if we feel like you have an injury from which you would benefit from PRP, so a lot of things like that are sprained ligaments, tennis elbow, Achilles injuries, partial rotator cuff injuries. We take a couple tubes of your blood, goes into a centrifuge, so that spins it around and around, separates stuff by weight. We take out the layer that's your platelets, so same little kind of cells that help you make a clot, right? And then we inject those into the injury site. So a lot of times we use ultrasound, make sure it goes the right place. And then those little platelets just go in there and they release these little chemical messages, and the intent is to help things heal faster. So there's some, reasonably good evidence, and a lot of it's kind of growing, but it's a kind of an exciting field, Mo, and it's been used in the NFL for a long time, but it's kind of trickling its way down to high school and college athletes now.
Outstanding stuff, Dr. Trevor Wilkes from OrthoCincy.com. The great thing about the people at OrthoCincy, they've got specialists and locations all across the tri-state. That includes walk-in orthopedic urgent care weekdays from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. in Edgewood and Eastgate. It is easier and certainly cheaper than going to an ER when you've got an urgent orthopedic injury. Go to OrthoCincy.com. That's OrthoCincy.com. Hey, it's Mo Egger. Do you love college basketball as much as I do? Then you will love Long Necks. They've got a great TV setup with 4K TVs all over the place, and the sound is always on for the big games. The beer selection is terrific, and if you tried Long Neck's wings, you owe it to yourself. 3 locations in Northern Kentucky, each one of them very easy to get to: Wilder, Hebron, and Richwood. And keep in mind, when the weather gets warmer, each Long Neck's location has an awesome outdoor setup. Long Neck Sports Grill. Stay late. Come often.